Hello aspirants, welcome to CSAT FIT PYQs. See, this is question asked in CSAT paper 2016. That is, 5 people A, B, C, D and E are seated about a round table. Every chair is spaced equidistant from adjacent chairs. See, 5 are seated in a round table. See, and 5 seats are seated arranged equal distance. See, 1, this is 2 and this is 3 and this is 4 and this is 5, right? So 5 people, right, are arranged, right, from equidistance about a round table. Every chair is spaced equidistant from adjacent chairs, right? So ABC adjacent chairs. C is seated next to A. See, C is seated next to A, right? This one. And another possibility is, see here, see, in seating arrangement, we need to go for all the possible possibilities, right? See, here and this one and this is here, right? 5 people, right? C is C can be here and A can be here, right? So C is seated next to A. C is seated next to A. A is seated 2 seats from D, right? Let's take this afterwards, right? B is not seated next to A. So B is not seated next to A. So B is not seated here and B is not seated here, right? So B is not seated next to A, right? A is seated 2 seats from D. A is seated 2 seats from D. So let's take same direction in both cases. A is seated, see, 1 seat, 2 seats, right? 1 seat from A is seated, right? A is seated 2 seats from D. So this D is seated here, right? A is 1 seat and 2 seats from D, right? Similarly here also A is seated here, right? So D is seated, see, from this direction. So 1 seat and 2 seats. So D is seated here, right? So now B cannot be here. So B would be here and B cannot be here. So B would be here, right? And the remaining one is E. So E is here, right? And E is here, right? So these are the cases we got. So 2 cases. Now let's see. On the basis of above information, which of the following must be true? Must be true, right? So that is D is seated next to B. See, D is seated next to B. Yes. D is seated next to B and D is seated next to B, right? This must be true because this is correct in both the cases. Then E is seated next to A. E is seated next to A. See, E is seated next to A here and E is seated next to A here. So option 2 is also correct. Then option 3, that is D and C are separated by 2 seats. D and C, see, D and C are separated by 2 seats. If we see here, yes, they are separated by 2 seats, right? Separated by 2 seats. But if we see here, D and C, they are not separated by 2 seats, right? They are side by side. So this cannot be definitely correct, right? So that's why in seating arrangement, you need to go for all possibilities, right? So this cannot be said, right? So option B, 1 and 2 only is a correct answer, right? The ones which are correct in all the possible cases would be, must be true, right? So these 2 are true, right? But this is not true, right? D and C separated by 2 seats, this is incorrect, right? Because they are side by side in one case.